So this was a fun weekend. I got the juices flowing, the creative juices firing off in the head here, um, about some very, very fun things. And I'll let you guys know in the notes when we're going to jump back to the actual episode here. The brain is firing off about why would Mueller allow an indictment to come across Stone? Why would he put Stone in the spotlight? He's been avoiding Stone like the plague for 2 years. Why now? Why? What's going on? I think I figured it out. And for those of you who like the idea that Trump is still negotiating and still planning on getting his wall and all that kind of stuff, I think you'll like how he's gonna how I think he might try to counterplay it in, because it's the media and the Democrats in this investigation. All three of them together have put themselves in their own lovely little box. Trump didn't even have to maneuver them in there. They're caught in it now. And I think he's smart enough to capitalize on it and may yet get his wall. I don't have high hopes, but I have hopes nonetheless. We're going to get right into it here with a little mail piece segment to start off the Civically Minded Nationalist, Episode 5. First and foremost, thank you all to those of you who are interacting, sharing it, spreading this around. Mike, Kelly, Christine, the Dawns, Dawn S, and Dawn R, and Dawn K, Rick K. All you guys who I see frequently going out there, putting this out there, trying to get it in front of people, repping it, I'm telling you, it means the world to me. So thank you very, very much for all you guys do. You guys are not unnoticed in everything that's going on. It means a lot to me. Thank you guys very much. We're just going to keep putting it out there until maybe one day someone, somewhere, at the right place, right time, sees the right video, and all of a sudden I get a little bit more notoriety than I've garnered so far. But I have garnered some notoriety. Let's get into that real quick with a little mail segment. A lovely piece from Shelly T here. Shelly T would like me to know her opinion about her, and I thought I would share it with all you guys. You're a Trump-hating Obama bot from a bygone era. Do I look that old? Bygone era? It's been 2 years, Shelly. Calm down. Okay, I know I'm not the most handsome specimen in the world. I've got the voice for radio and the face to match. I understand that. Okay? It's all right. I can take it. It's okay. Bygone era. Is it the hair? Anyways. You come out and you're always against Trump and the wall. You want Trump to fail, and I think that it's obvious that you do. I think that it's obvious that you... I think she means... she thinks it's obvious that I do want Trump's wall to fail. You're a hack job, shock jock, and you're never going to amount to anything relevant in the political world. You should stop while you're ahead, which is a dumb statement. It's stop while you're behind. And that's not dumb, it's Shelley. I've never really understood that stop while you're ahead. We use that so often for people who are behind. I'm behind. I'm not ahead of anything. I got like 60 followers total between all facets. I'm not ahead of anything. Anyways, that sums up Shelley's opinion of me. Thank you, Shelley, for writing in. I do appreciate criticism, constructive or not. I do appreciate the criticism because it does force one to stop and look at what they're doing, why they think the things they think, why they say the things they say. I am a critically minded citizen of these United States of America. I always will be. And until I see politicking stop entirely and we start the transition back from politicians to statesmen, which there's a very clear difference between the two, I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing, Shelley. You might not like it, and that's fine. I don't mind that you don't like it. But it's going to keep coming out. And it is my civic responsibility to help bring awareness to these situations. I am, however, going to directly address the Obama bot comment. Shelley, if you're like most good-natured Republicans, conservatives, even constitutionalists, some constitutionalists, you've been outraged about a number of things over the past years, and rightly so. There's plenty to be outraged about. Hillary Clinton destroying subpoenaed evidence, and getting away with it specifically. You've got Eric Holder getting away with Fast and Furious. You've got the NSA getting away with illegally tapping phone records and data information for years. You've got Benghazi. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. But they were all the things that the media wanted you to be upset about. Let me drop some information on you. If you don't know me, I have been actively working against the Obama administration since its inception, and all the way up until a solid year into the Trump administration. I believe we're transitioning to the point where, while the blame might have been implemented under Obama, it now falls on the Trump administration for not righting the wrongs. Yet there's still a good list of things that need to be set right. But focusing specifically on Obama, here's how deep into the cesspool I delved in order to get the information. I took some investigative journalism classes, not like accredited classes, but things that actual investigative journalists put out and wrote to help folks who thought maybe this is where I want to go with my journalistic abilities, okay? I'm not going to put the name of the program out because I'm not endorsed or anything. I don't want to start fights where no fights need started. And I used that information that I got to learn how to dig just a little bit deeper, to learn how to open up .gov sites and verify against things, to really dig in deep. And one of the things that I found out, and this is the most disturbing thing that I tried to put out while working on Camvabo, and it never really took hold. Did you know Jay Johnson, Eric Holder, and Janet Napolitano, working in 3 different settings, multiple different jobs, over many, many years, actually implemented a legal fail-safe that allows the government to execute you, Shelley, and myself on American soil via military action, specifically the way it was implemented, drone strike. It's true. It's 100% legal for them to do it. They did it to a U.S. citizen on foreign soil in Yemen, who, by all means, was what you and I, Shelley, would consider to be a terrorist. But the thing about that word and the government is that it's very loosely defined. There's no concrete cemented definition of the word terrorist. All this government has to do, because of the Obama administration, is deem you or I to be a terrorist, and they can kill us with a drone strike. Well, yeah, but there's never going to be any drones flying over the United States of America that are weaponized. That's where you're wrong, folks. In 2014, they started a program to be finalized by 2016, which has not been stopped. I've done my research. I'll leave you to do yours. Where any drone operated by a U.S. agency over U.S. airspace or foreign airspace is fully interoperable as deemed necessary by government agencies. That means if the U.S. military has a drone flying over the U.S. or Afghanistan or wherever, and the FBI says, we need that drone, here's our argument for why we need that drone, FBI can now tap in and use that drone. They're interoperable, and they're also fully modular. What does modular mean? Modular means most of these drones today are designed with plug-and-play systems, where you have extra sensory equipment for surveillance. You can pop that stuff off and slap a rocket pod or a laser-guided missile or whatever, JDAM, on that drone. Again, this is all researchable stuff. If you Google interoperability and modularity of United States-operated drones, you will find the documentation for this stuff. That's how deep I've gone into this, Shelley. If you're going to call me an Obama bot, feel free. Understand, I have worked as ardently and outspokenly as any name you can put in front of me from the last decade against the Obama administration. 100% totally and honestly true. And that's where I'll leave it. Feel free to voice your opinion. Just know, pack a lunch and bring your friends, because the evidence that I can put out there to show that your claim is false vastly surmounts the opinion that you sent me. Thank you for your Facebook message there, Shelly. I got another one here that boils down from Michael that basically, I'm going to paraphrase Michael. I'm sorry, I know this isn't exactly what you sent me. For the sake of time, we're going to get into it here. Trump's going to get his wall. I like how you do things. I like your personality. I like the way you say things. Trump's going to get his wall. Give him time and you'll see. I sincerely hope you're right, Michael. I really do. And I appreciate you writing in and giving me your opinion. Again, going back to episodes 3 and 4, I've been raised in a political era of pure corruption. That's how it is. That's not going to change, and I'm not going to start trusting politicians just because there's a certain letter in front of their names. Trump is an outstanding economist. He is an economy-driven politician. Why do I say he's a politician? He's flip-flopped on too many things. He's backdoored on too many things. The amendment, the amendment, the Second Amendment, the aggressive stance on abortions that he had. He never said that he was going to ban abortions by any means, but he did. He's been outspoken against it and said he was going to do things to use his influence as much as he can. Zero ground made up there. Yeah, as a matter of fact, just recently, this New York law where you can basically kill a baby right before a lady pushes it out. Case in point, hopefully that gets struck down. He is an economically minded politician. That's what Trump is. But I hope you're right about the wall, and I think those who are like-minded, like I said before, will enjoy this segment because of a what if I came up with over the weekend. Let's get into it. It's at the 12-minute mark. For those of you who skipped to the 12-minute mark to avoid the mail stuff, welcome back. So here's where we're going to get into my theories. And these theories are deeply intertwined. And that's what's so cool about them. Because, again, the three agencies that I referenced before, there are the three components that I listed before. The liberals in general, the media tool that they use for their propaganda, and the Mueller investigation. All just the three cogs of the same machine put themselves in a box. And it's really, really fun to watch. It's really, really cool to see. So here's how we're going to get into that. I am an outspoken critic of the president as far as I do not take what he says as absolute fact. I wait for him to prove it. And then if I go out and say something that's wrong and incorrect, I go out and correct it afterwards once he's proven me wrong. I think that's how it's supposed to be. As a citizen who has sovereign authority in the United States, because I don't care what anybody says. That's what the Constitution was written for us to have the authority and for the government to abide by us, by our applications, by our implementations, by our wills, okay? That's simple. But I think he's going to capitalize on this, and I think Mueller just really stepped in it. The Mueller investigation, the FBI, the liberal media, they all just really, really stepped in it. For several years, Stone has been coming out here and saying, bring it. I fully know I'm going to be indicted. I'm just waiting for when it's going to happen. Thought it would have already happened. It hasn't yet. I'm sure it's going to happen eventually. Furthermore, did you see Stone's interview with Tucker? I didn't know this. This is something that comes from the Stone Cold Truth, which is his, it's not really a podcast, at least not that I see, but his outlet, if you will, Stone Cold Truth, which I like. That's a clever play on words. The man had his information hacked by the FBI several years ago. Through either a leak or Politico's own hacking of the FBI, not sure which way that goes, Politico obtained his emails and text messages that the FBI referenced both during the preliminary investigation of what was going on and in these charges, the paperwork they put in for the indictment presently. They're talking about the same information, okay? Politico's already put it out there. They've gone out and they've said, here's what it is, here's the emails, here's the text messages. This is what we have about him. Wasn't anything substantial in there. That's why he didn't get in trouble when the whole thing happened years ago. And that's why he's not going to get in trouble now. And he knows it. He said this on Tucker Carlson. He said, they've already put out all the information that they have. It was put out as public information by Politico in 2016. It's all out there. You can view it all. Or you could, at least. He knows for a fact. He also alleged that they still currently illegally tap his text messages, communiques, and emails. The FBI does. I'm very much looking forward to if they have proof of that in Discovery. I think Discovery comes around. He is going to eat these guys for lunch, but we already expect him to eat them for lunch. Like I said in episode 4, Stone is going to obliterate this. He has lined up everything for years to be spot on with where he wants to be. The FBI has nothing, and he knows it. Do you think Mueller doesn't know that? I don't think Mueller's that stupid, folks. Corrupt? No question. Mueller's as corrupt as the day is long. Same as the FBI and the liberal slackies news media that they're manipulating and using as a pawn. There's nothing new here. We already know all this. We already know this is what's going on. We already know this is what's happening. Why? Why now? It's 2018, folks. I don't think that's coincidental. He could have done this. Mueller, being he, could have leveled this indictment in 2016. They could have leveled this indictment in 2017. Now it's 2018. After the blue wave fizzled out, and it went pretty much as any level-headed person was going to expect. Yep. Those are the seats that are going to change. Yep, they're going to get Congress back, but that's going to be it. That's pretty much what everyone who was sane was predicting, and it happened. The Russian collusion investigation didn't garner them anything. It's failed. If there was anything substantive to it, it would have already had the geopolitical impact that they expected it to have, which is more seats going blue, more power and authority back to the communists, and thus victory. Didn't work. Now the noose is getting tighter from that, and from the fact, looking past, now we're going to switch future, Mueller's looking down this going, I'm about to be in really hot water. I'm about to be in hot water for the fact that this is about to come across, this investigation is about to be construed as an effort to tamper with the 2020 presidential election. I don't want to go to jail about this. I'm already quite possibly going to jail about this once it gets brought out that this has in fact been a witch hunt, as the president has said. How do I get out of this? How do I get the heat off of me, says Mueller, without having the liberals try to hang me out to dry? Well, it's twofold. One, we talked about in episode 2, maybe 2 for sure, about the same way that soap has a hydrophilic and hydrophobic relationship with water, their corruption between parties has a relationship that both divides and unifies. That's how it works. A has dirt on B, B has dirt on C, C has dirt on A, but they all know each other, so all the dirt gets passed around, and then everybody has dirt on everybody. So if one piece goes down, all the pieces go down. That's the box they've put themselves into that I was referring to. Now they've got to hit the brakes on this without each piece trying to take the other down and thusly collapsing in on itself. I can't think of an easier way to do that from Mueller's perspective besides bringing in the one person that I know is going to tank this investigation so epically that the mainstream media will be going, what do we do? What do we do? People are asking what's going on with Stone. We don't want to answer it because it makes us look bad. What do we do? The Democrats, the liberal communists who have been pushing for this investigation and all that are going, you're going to cost me re-election if we don't quietly get rid of this, because we're not going to have anything to go on here. We're not. It's obvious now. He is exposing us, and we don't want to be exposed. Rather than this being something we can hold over Trump's head, this is about to implode on us. Our names are about to get put out there if they haven't been already. You need to stop this, Mueller. And Mueller gets to sit back and go, you're right, it's time for it to stop. Because in the back of his head, he's still worried about 2018 or 2020 and getting himself in hot water for tampering with that election any more than he already has. Now, it's gone from C to B to A, from the media to the liberals, to the communists, rather, back to Mueller, and now it's going to go the other way. Mueller's going to say, no problem, we're going to shut it down quietly. Tell your buddies over at CNN and MSNBC to shut the F up about it. Keep them quiet. Because if it gets out that we've closed the investigation and it gets the type of media coverage that the investigation has garnered so far, we're all going to burn. And it's going to start with me, says Mueller. And if I start burning, you liberals are going down with me. And then the liberals are going, well, we're not going down for this on our own either. We got to put something out there. So we're going to take the media down with us. So what happens when we get to that point? Well, we're left with this huge gaping hole in media coverage. Hours and hours and hours a day are spent, and up to, I would argue, probably even 40 to 50 hours a week from media coverage are spent, from left-wing media coverage, are spent on the Mueller investigation. Minutia's nonsense. Taking the irrelevant and making it mainstream and frontline news. That's what they're doing. What do you think's going to happen when they're told to shut up because the investigation's closing? In other news, McDonald's has added a 6-piece chicken nugget to its menu. And PETA's mad. And this is major news, folks. Focus on... You're going to get so ridiculous with what they're telling people is in fact major news that people are going to go, is this CNN? It is CNN. Is this it is CNN. What? Where's my Mueller investigation? Okay. This is bad and daunting, right? Because it's not going to take Stone long to do this. Don't think for a minute that we're talking months down the road. We're talking weeks at best. If it doesn't start this week, it will start next week. What do we do? That's what the liberals are asking themselves. What do we do? Enter my brainchild. If Trump wants his wall, this is when he gets his wall. He calls Pelosi and Chuck U. Schumer and I guess now occasional Cortex into the office. Shuts the doors, keeps the media out like they've always asked him to. Get him out. Here we go. Let's do this. Y'all's names, minus you, occasional Cortex, you're too new to be brought down by this corruption. But you've been elevated to places you should not be, so you're here now. And you get to help deal with this. You guys, Chuck U and Nancy, are about to go down for this Russian collusion nonsense, aren't you? That's why you've been so flip-floppy about the impeachment stuff. You want to try to hold it over my head, but at the end of the day, you know if the truth comes out, you're going to burn. And the truth's about to come out. The media lapdogs need a bone. How about we give them one? Sign the bill for the wall. And all your problems disappear. Starting with step C, the media, they've got their bone. They get to rant and rave about the wall and all this kind of stuff. You guys get to try to portray and recover your images that you're going to put Americans first for once. On this issue, this is a fair deal, this is what we want, blah, blah, blah. You get to spin it however you need to spin it so that you can sleep at night and keep your constituent zombies happy. And then Mueller quietly gets a slap on the wrist, fades into oblivion. He's pushing papers at a desk for the next few years till he retires. He's a politician. That's politicking. Politicking to our benefit, but politicking nonetheless. Why wouldn't he? Explain to me how any of that doesn't make sense, because I've been thinking about this for the last 3 days, slowly piecing this together. I am yet to see an argument that states I'm wrong. I don't see it. There's a lot of things you can add to it, and there's a lot of minutiae that you can flip around and work. I've used that word like 2 or 3 times now in this episode. I need another word. But regardless, you get my point. The core of the argument is sound. If he still has a chance of getting that wall and thusly getting reelected, because I agree with Ann Coulter. I'm not going to lie. I know Ann Coulter and the president are in their little scuffle right now. I still remember in 2015 when she went on Bill Maher's show, Real Talk, and he looked over at her and said, in your mind, who is the front runner for the Republican nomination? And she said, with the crowd we have right now, Donald Trump. And that crowd laughed. They tried to laugh her off the stage. That woman held to her guns and defended the president, not then president, but defended Donald Trump when no one else would. Present company included. I heard that and I thought, what is wrong with you? What happened to you, Ann? She was right. She defended him then. She defended him all the way through. She said, this is a good plan. This is a campaign that we can get behind. This is good. She feels betrayed right now. And then the president jumps down her throat. Not cool. Again, I don't like the guy. Not the way... You can very professionally go in here and say, I'm sorry Ann disagrees. And in a way, he kind of actually put it out there about Fox News in some tweets. He said, I've done A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H for this country. You think I can't get my wall? I am negotiating. Give me a minute to negotiate. There are more professional ways to say it than he did, but his point is valid. And I think the same answer was applicable to Coulter. Hey, okay. Hey, thank you for everything you've done. I arguably would not have had the influence that I would have had if it hadn't been for you taking the gamble on me. Luckily, the gamble paid off, but thankfully, you were willing to do that. I am asking you to trust me on this, okay? Tone it down a little. This is where being a leader comes in. Tone it down. De-escalate the situation and say, I hear what you're saying. I haven't really steered you wrong on many issues yet. I've backed what I've said thus far, other than certain things, which we've talked about. Let me negotiate. Let me keep negotiating. Okay? That's how you do that as a leader. Again, don't like the way the guy handles himself in that regard. I don't. There is no reason to escalate the situation, especially with someone who backed your ass when no one else would. That's classless to me. Period. That would be like me turning around and going after Dawn R., who has supported me in these endeavors, these different political endeavors for years, and saying, I guess she's mad at me because I didn't return a phone call. It's a bad deal. We ain't got to worry about what she says anymore. Classless. Totally, utterly, and completely classless. That aside, I don't see the theory I just put out not being involved in his push to get the wall. If he's going to get his wall, it's going to come from this theory more or less. I'm going to be very interested to see what the next 21 days holds. Well, not quite 21 days, but I'm very, very interested to see what happens, because this is a fascinating little mind mouse that's been tunneling through the crevices and stuff in the head. I tell you, this is going to be interesting, how he's going to allow Mueller's desperate need to get out of this unscathed, or as unscathed as he can, and use it to his advantage when pitching the wall. Mark my words, I think they're intertwined, and I think we're going to see that come out very, very soon, and it's going to be fascinating. If not, y'all's wall's gone. I'm sorry, it is. My wall is gone. It is. I'm sorry. And what would be very, very interesting is if it plays out the way that it seems to be playing out. Because the man I voted for, Chris Keniston from Veteran Parties of America, actually called this out. Chris Keniston's actually proved that his assertions and observations of the opposing party's representatives were pretty spot on. He said Hillary's not going to go to jail. He said nothing's going to change on abortion. He said he is not as pro Second Amendment. He said the wall is just political promises to the air. Those are the four big ones right there. And I'm very interested to see if Chris Keniston ends up being right on this. Time will tell. Veterans Party of America, if you don't know Veterans Party of America, check them out, please. I would like to see a legitimate third party come up for the reasons that we're going to segue into now. That was all free-flowing out of the brain, just going, and it's actually a really good seg. I might be getting the hang of this. I might actually enjoy doing this. We have a problem in this country, going on to topic 2 for today's episode, we have a problem in this country with the ruling class elitists believing that they can just say and do whatever they want, and that whenever there's accountability held to them for it, well, then they can just go, you're a racist, bigot, uneducated, unqualified, terrible person, and I should be able to shout you down from my soapbox. I'm on my soapbox now, and I'm shouting you down, you horrible, racist, bigot Republican. We're tired of it. Watch this. Don't think I'm right? Watch this. This is so much fun. Howard Schultz, Coffee Boy. For those of you who don't know who it is, the name is unfamiliar. He's an idiot thinking about running as an independent, which is the kiss of death, in the 2020 elections. Now, mind you, let me explain why he's running as an independent. He's going to run as an independent because he's going to voice semi-conservative viewpoints to try to split some of the vote away from Trump. That's what his goal is. He is a liberal through and through. He is a communist through and through. Make no mistake about it. How can you say that he owns Starbucks? How is he a communist? Listen to the things the man has to say. The man is a communist. Make no mistake. He's made his millions. He is free and clear and above the social structure that communism destroys. So he doesn't care anymore. It's that simple. He says he's going to run as an independent. And he recently just told us all that this is the darkest, most fragile time our country has been in its history, largely because the President of the United States is not qualified to be president. Really, Howard? Really? You're a businessman. And this is why I see through his comments like this are what allow me to see right through his crap. He supported Obama. Obama had nothing to his name other than a couple years Senate experience. That's it. Never even should have got the Senate seat that he had. He was a failed community organizer. I believe was in legal trouble for, like, I think the dude got disbarred, if I remember right. It tells you how long ago it's been since I've had to make arguments against Obama. Obama was a train wreck. Had to have his college records sealed because whatever is in there, which if you believe the foreign ID stuff that was going around, foreign student ID, makes perfect sense. I'm not saying that's the fact. I'm just saying it's the most plausible explanation of why his college records are sealed. And you supported this guy. Plain and simple. But you want to turn around and then go back and say a guy who is a brilliant economist, a very successful business owner, his successes vastly outweigh his failures as business owners, as a business owner is concerned. A man who has been tied to the political scene for decades because the political regulations and interference in his businesses forced him to learn politics. That's why I don't hold to the argument that he's not a politician. This man has been a politician since he was 20 years old. He had to be, because he had to know what politicians were going to be influencing how he conducted his business. Period. It's that simple. And you want to turn around and tell me he's not qualified to be president? On what grounds, jackwagon? What are you talking about? That is the most asinine statement I have ever seen. Why? How does he think he's going to get away with that and not get called out? Because he's an elitist. He's up here, way out of frame, even with the left hand out of frame, and we're down here. Okay? That's what he thinks is going on. Okay? He's up here, we're down here. The illegal immigrants are up here. Us U.S. citizens are down here. That's what this jackwagon thinks. Okay? Thinks he's not going to get called out for it. He's wrong, and I hope to see more and more people blowing him up about it. My soundbite, my segment, included or not, I hope people tear him apart for it. I really do. But that's one example. He thinks he's just going to get away with it. Example number 2, did you hear about the lady in Florida who's going to lose her position in her government office for quote-unquote hate speech voted 3-2 by the people that she works with because she called out Talib, Pakistan, as I call her, Pakistani Talib, as possibly being the first jihadist martyr on the Congress floor. Harsh words. Harsh words. She fully meant what she said. She says, this is someone who would probably very willingly blow herself up on the Congress floor in order to take out some of us and make a indoctrinated Islamist statement. Okay? Where does she come off saying something like that? Maybe it's the fact that it's happened in other countries. Maybe it's the fact that in Arab countries, quite often, there was a shift in 2010, I believe it was. The suicide hajis stopped being hajis. They weren't men. They were women. Blowing up buses in Israel. Blowing up diners in Saudi Arabia. Carrying out these suicide attacks. And they were women who were fairly well respected in their communities. They were women that no one was going to bat an eye at because, oh, that's so-and-so. She and her husband work at the market. Or she and her husband have this job. Or they do this in the community. Or that kind of thing. All of a sudden, Olah Snack Bar, boom. She's making a statement based off of things that have happened in the past. And you're calling her a racist and bigot and destroying her career because you don't like her opinion, even though her opinion is based off of historical happenings. Again, I'm going to shout you down from my soapbox, you dirty, horrible Republican conservative. This is the essence of our country today. You can't go out and speak the truth if you're a conservative or a Republican or a constitutionalist. You're not allowed to go out and speak these truths. If you fall in step with the liberal communists in this country, you can try to go out and say whatever you want, even though there's no factual basis for your argument, and then you get to condemn the people who call you out for it, Mr. Schultz. How did we get here? The First Amendment is practically irrelevant at this point. It's almost dead, even with the tattered, corrupted, destroyed, mangled remains of the Second Amendment that we have. The Second Amendment still stands, and the First Amendment is faltering. Fourth and Fifth Amendments are gone. 10th Amendment, 90% of the populace couldn't tell you what the 10th Amendment's about. It's gone. The Bill of Rights is falling piece by piece. How? How did we get here? I'm going to tell you how we got here. We got here by ignoring these fine men. The Anti-Federalist Papers. Again, if you don't have it, please, I'm begging you, get a copy of the Anti-Federalist Papers, the Federalist Papers, and the Jefferson Letters. Please. Anti-Federalist Papers 3 and 4. Now, the guys in the who wrote the Anti-Federalist Papers were actually wrong about quite a few things. For instance, they were trying to say that one of the major arguments for a centralized federal, what we call nowadays the federal government, one of the arguments against that is this falsified threat of war. We're not in danger of major war with the native tribes. We're not in danger of different wars with Mexico. We're not in danger of wars with England. Shortly thereafter, you had the War of 1812, and then you had the Spanish-American War. You had all the conflicts going on along Mexico. I mean, seriously, not kidding. They weren't right about everything, just like the guys who wrote the Federalist Papers weren't right about everything, but they were spot on about this. And one of the things that they talk about between 3 and 4 is the fear. I'm not going to actually read it directly to you guys. I'll let you guys read it. But one of the topics you'll see them hit on this and many other times in the Anti-Federalist Papers, you'll see them hit on the point of this system of bureaucracy. This inept thing that does not fully protect the inherent rights of the people. Their rights to freedom, life, liberty, pursuit of property. Their rights to those things will be nothing more than a political ruling class, the same as we just came from. The same, and one of the people that they directly attack is John Adams. John Adams is they call it out. They say John, and I believe the letter that was being written at the time was, I think, Patrick Henry. Hang on. He didn't sign it. Published in Maryland. The identity of the author is unknown. But Patrick Henry did write 4. And I would argue that, by the way it's written, he wrote 3 as well. He calls out John Adams specifically. He says, look at the ties John Adams and his family has had to the political happenings in England and that kind of stuff. He is transitioning from his experience and what he knows. What he believes to be safe and inherently virtuous towards the rights of the people into our system of government, bringing it from England, from the ties he has there into this. And that is dangerous. We cannot allow that to happen because it will form an elitist upper echelon of society that will have all the political authority within our lands. I'm not kidding you. This is the stuff that they warned us about. And what are we seeing? We're seeing the exact stuff that they warned us about. The voice of the people and the reason for and the right and the reasoning for their rights will be lost in the crowd. It will be drowned out by this elitist class. Exactly what we're seeing with the things that I just mentioned. And I know that you guys are bright and you guys are well versed in all of this. And you guys can sit there and off the top of your head point to probably a dozen things that I haven't referenced. And you're right. All of those things are exactly what we were warned about. Folks, this podcast, this video is not really a podcast right now, but these videos are about a shift back to how this country was supposed to work and back to the core arguments surrounding why this country was founded, how those arguments were being made, why those arguments were being made, and what points were used to solidify those arguments. Plus, we have the benefit of hindsight. These men were going into this blind. They didn't know how it was going to work. They didn't know what was going to happen. They didn't know if they were right or wrong, but they gave the arguments that they were convicted, that their convictions dictated they give. And some of the arguments from the Anti-Federalist Papers are right, and some of the arguments from the Federalist Papers were spot on, and almost everything from the Jefferson letter. That's the real thing about the Jefferson and Adams letters. Adams, not always spot on with what he was saying. He makes some very valid points. Jefferson blows it out of the water with hindsight applied. You can apply hindsight to the Jefferson letters and go, dang, he knew what he was talking about. He was on it. He had the full picture. And he did. And many of these men did. And if we don't educate ourselves with their correct assertions, with their mistakes, with the pitfalls, if we do not learn from the mistakes and correct assertions that these men gave at the time that our current system of government was being formed, we are doomed to repeat them. And sooner rather than later, we are going to have the opportunity put in front of us to completely restructure how this is going to work. I know we don't like thinking about it. I know it's not a fun topic. We don't want to think about having to water the tree of liberty, but it is coming. It is irreversible at this point, and it's going to come faster than we all want it to have its appearance made if, frankly, Trump doesn't win 2020. It's that simple. Or even better yet, a third party like Veterans Party of America or a constitution-based party like that. We don't get back to that, ladies and gentlemen. We need to know where they were right, where they were wrong, where they drew their conclusions from and the bases for their arguments, from watching things like the Greeks and the Romans, from knowing the history behind that and how those empires fell. If we do not learn from the arguments they were having with the application of today's hindsight, we are doomed to set ourselves up for failure, again, in future generations. That's why the arguments that we have today are so important, and that's why paying attention to what's going on is so important. Preview for next week. For the end of the week. We're going to get into the bills again. I know I've been telling you guys to keep an eye on the bills and all that kind of stuff. Some of you guys have asked for the links for the sites that I use to follow the bills that are going through Congress. I will post those with the next video because we're going to be talking about those kinds of things. I'm sure we'll have some segments about what happens between now and then because you can bet there's going to be some fireworks going on in Washington this week. And we will build off of some more of the principles that our founding fathers left us. Please, again, like, share, follow, spread this. It only takes getting in front of the right set of eyes one time to get a big jump on what we're trying to do. Thank you guys so much for your support and your criticisms. We'll continue growing and figuring out exactly how this is going to work as we keep posting videos. I think things are getting smoother. Things are starting to come together a little bit better. Yeah, probably not this week. Maybe next. I got a lot of metal work to do here over the next 2 weeks. So what we're going to do, probably podcast-wise, maybe next week, possibly even the week after, for setting up a new podcasting site. We'll see what happens. It'll be easier to share from there, easier to get ads going, revenue generated from all this. Thank you guys so much again for your support. And thank you, if you've watched this 50-minute video, for sticking through all the way with me to the end. Even if you skipped the mail stuff in there, I appreciate you. Thank you guys so much for your time. Be safe this week. Make good decisions. Don't be a communist. Stand by to stand by.